All right. Well, that didn't go well. I don't think you can. I mean, yeah, that sucked.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. But for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. As always, I'm Braden Uwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Uwasco, Carter First too, as well as on our main one, Locked On Jays. Go follow us on that Twitter account if you haven't already. We post stuff every single day, so make sure you guys go check that out, as well as the Instagram and the TikTok accounts at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. Keeps us top of your page. You guys get your live streams, your shorts, your videos, the podcast, the whole ordeal. And you keep updated on all your Blue Jays news. There you go. Lot to get into today. We had an interesting comment, Carter, on yesterday's episode, I guess it was.
Yeah.
That we wanted to talk about, because I had the same feeling. You texted me the comment, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I know exactly what you're thinking on this one, because I thought the exact same thing when it came in. So I want to talk about that. It brings up an interesting point, at least, but I think it's also good to get points across. I don't want to spoil anything. We will get into that as well. Some very interesting tweets have come out, and just some funny things, some cool things. We'll get into all of that sort of in the back half of the show as well. We're going to talk about the game, of course, Carter, because I have a lot of thoughts, is what I'll say. The Blue Jays obviously dropped 8-4 to the Atlanta Braves in game one of that series. Yeah, listen, I'm going to start it here, I guess. Usually I throw it to you for this, but I'm going to get my thoughts and feelings out here a little bit. I think we had to expect this to happen at some point with Easton Lucas. You weren't going to get this guy being a Cy Young candidate the entire year when he has barely pitched in the major leagues. This was on the docket eventually. And I think, yes, it sucks. You don't want to see him get beat up like that. But at the end of the day, this was going to happen. I think if this was Kevin Gausman, I'd be a little bit more upset. This is your fifth starter who is a replacement starter that comes into this game. And yeah, he gets shelled. The offense has to be better. And we will talk about the offense. We'll get into all that. But Carter, Easton Lucas specifically, you got to be on my side on this one, right?
Like I said it yesterday when we were talking about our predictions for this series, and I'll go into how I feel about Easton Lucas but later on. But the Atlanta Braves, like, they're a very good team. It's not a surprise to us. I know they started 4-11, they're 5-11 now, whatever. But they have Spencer Strider. He's pretty much confirmed that he's starting on Wednesday. Sean Murphy is back in this series. We kind of got a little lucky with Marcell Ozuna, tweaked something. Again, I don't want to say lucky because it's never good when somebody gets injured, but you are kind of getting lucky when you don't have to play the top team that the top roster that the Braves could roll out in theory. Ronald Acuña still not there. The Braves still a very good team on paper, and it's just the most typical Toronto Blue Jays thing of all time that no matter if it's a team's pitcher that's struggling, it could be an offense that's struggling, whatever it is, the Blue Jays cure team struggles and slumps. That's just what the Toronto Blue Jays do. That is something that transfers over year to year to year that I have noticed since I've really been dialed into the Toronto Blue Jays since like 2013, is that Toronto Blue Jays cure slumps. And that's just an unfortunate thing that we do have to see. But with Easton Lucas has never been a guy that like you're looking at and he had the most unbelievable stuff of all time. He's not supposed to be this inspiring ace. He's supposed to fill in a role for your baseball team. And that's what he was doing. And I think the reason that he got blown up so much isn't that his stuff isn't that good. I think it's just the Atlanta Braves had a very good scouting report on Easton Lucas today. One of the things that you noticed early on is that Easton Lucas couldn't really get deep into counts whatsoever. It's because the Atlanta Braves were very aggressive early on. They had the scouting report on Easton Lucas. In that Boston Red Sox series, or that Boston Red Sox start, he made 17 of the first 20 strikes he threw. So 20 of his first pitches, 17 of them went for first pitch strikes. So clearly he's trying to get ahead of the count early on, and he is hammering teams with the fastball. He threw lots of fastballs to the Washington Nationals, threw lots of fastballs to the Red Sox, and threw lots of fastballs to the Atlanta Braves as well. So in the Nationals game, threw 55% of his pitches as fastballs, and against the Red Sox, 59% of his pitches were fastballs. So going into the game, the Atlanta Braves knew two things: that Easton Lucas was going to throw a lot of fastballs, and he was going to throw a lot of strikes, and he was going to attack the zone. So it looked like what they were doing is they were sitting on fastball early on the count, were able to adjust to that changeup, were able to adjust to that sweeper, and they were teeing off on Easton Lucas. And it looked like they just kind of knew exactly what was going to come out of his hand every single time. And when you have a guy, again, that not a lot of teams knew going into the league, Easton Lucas, only making his third career start in the major leagues, has had some relief roles. Not a lot of scouting reports on a guy like Easton Lucas. Now that you're seeing this guy play at the major league, you're seeing how he is attacking hitters. Teams are going to realize what he is doing. You know, a lot of Braves did that, and they got to him in multiple innings over this game.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked about this. This was something I think, like I said, was on the docket to happen here. This goes back to the Davis Schneider effect, right? Where teams are going to, as soon as they see you more or are able to see you, they're going to start adjusting. And that's exactly what this Braves lineup has done. They obviously figured out Easton Lucas from his first two starts. Now, I think the interesting point to all of this is now how Easton Lucas goes and bounces back. How can he adjust to teams now knowing what he's going to do? And maybe this is a little bit on the game call by Tyler Heineman. Maybe he's got to see, okay, well, they're picking up on that fastball early. They're adjusting to that. Maybe we got to start nibbling a little bit around the zone, testing these guys. And so, you know, there's a lot of pieces that go into this. But at the end of the day, and John Schneider said it in the post game, you're going to have to see how he rebounds. He said that Easton Lucas wasn't too shaken up. I think he knew that eventually it wasn't going to be his day and teams were going to get to him. Now, okay, now we've seen him on the low. How do you come back? How do you bounce back? That's going to be what I'm looking for in his next start, because I still do think he gets at least one more, Carter.
Well, and everything we've heard from Max Scherzer is he's going to get a second opinion on his thumb. Clearly, this is an injury that has lingered around from last season. We thought that he was going to be healthy going into this year, but obviously, with Max Scherzer, maybe there's a little bit of an age thing. It's not aging too well, at least from our perspectives, with this Max Scherzer stuff. But we kind of understand that, with Max Scherzer, you want to take the diligent route. You don't want to rush him back, especially when you do have Easton Lucas, who is being a serviceable plug and play option right now. But one thing I did find interesting, that's why I brought up this approach thing, is that when Easton Lucas gets out of the game here, you throw in Jacob Barnes, he goes 2 innings, and you guys know how I feel about Jacob Barnes. If you guys have listened to this podcast, he doesn't give up a hit, doesn't give up a walk. There's no base runners. Yariel Rodriguez goes out, doesn't give up a hit, doesn't give up a walk. It's like the Atlanta Braves throughout the first 15 games as soon as Easton Lucas left the game, which was a very interesting thing to see. And that's why I think a lot of this was an approach thing. A lot of this is just they knew what Easton Lucas was going to throw. Maybe there's, got to throw out some cheating allegations. Maybe they had the garbage cans going or something like that. But I don't think this was like an Easton Lucas didn't look like he had bad stuff. The command maybe was a little bit worse than it was in other games.
Yeah. But
I think this is just a Atlanta Braves lineup that had a very good approach, and you're starting to get a little bit healthier as well, and they're probably going to start to pick up some of that momentum. Can't expect the Atlanta Braves to have that Chicago White Sox season when you start 4-11. You're starting to get in that territory, but that's why they say it's very early on when you're only 15 games into the season.
Well, and we'll get into all the offense of it, of what the Blue Jays brought in this game, but you're right, Carter, and that's the one thing I noticed. You put Barnes in and Yariel Rodriguez, who are two debatably right now worst bullpen arms. And
the only other one would be, sorry to interrupt, but Fluharty. It'd be like those three that you would debate, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, and wherever you want to place them, I don't care. But they had no answer for those guys. So now, again, what I'm really interested to watch in the next 2 games of this series is this the Atlanta Braves that we know throughout the last few years, or is this the Atlanta Braves that started this season that don't know what to do at the plate? And I think the big test is going to be when we get our big dogs in there, like Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassitt, right? What can this lineup do against them? Did they just have a great scouting report on Easton Lucas, or were they up so much that it was sort of like, we're going to win this game? And that's sort of my interest now in this series, because if it is how it was in the back half of this game, then I think you're looking at a possible 2-game win for the Toronto Blue Jays. But if this team comes out and gets to Gausman a little bit quicker, okay, then I'm a little bit worried. Now I'm starting to think this Atlanta Braves team is the team of the last few years and not the team that started out 2025. So I think this is an interesting game. It sucked to watch. Don't get me wrong. This game sucked, and I'm not going to try to sugarcoat anything for anybody. But what this does, I think, is a little bit of a table setter game for me. I think the storylines coming out of game one are super interesting. And I know maybe some of you are a little upset with how this team played and the pitching. But I think for me, it's more of an interest than anything, because I think I've seen what this Toronto Blue Jays team is so far. And again, I think it just sets the table for a very interesting series to watch of two teams trying to hone in on their identity of 2025. And that's what I find really intriguing about this whole series, especially after what just happened in game one.
Yeah, see, one thing that I want to see that what the narrative is like with this Easton Lucas stuff is, are people going to abandon Easton Lucas after this bad start, after he had those first two unbelievable starts? Are people going to say Easton Lucas should be set to AAA? I want to kind of know your opinion on this as well. So Max Scherzer, when he comes back, I think you do have to lean towards Max Scherzer being back. Obviously, he's going to be with the Major League team, but what do you do with these two guys? Do you throw Max Scherzer in the bullpen? Is Easton Lucas a guy you want to move over to the bullpen? Do you have a six-man rotation? Does Easton Lucas go back to AAA? How are you, if you're John Schneider, if you're the front office, managing the situation once Max Scherzer is healthy and returning to the Toronto Blue Jays?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, this doesn't shake my opinion of Easton Lucas. It's exactly what I thought was going to happen a little bit. It was going to come at some point. If it wasn't this game, it was going to be the next game, right? So this doesn't change anything for me. I want to see what his bounce back is like. That is going to be massive for, I think, his development and his confidence moving forward. But also, no, he's not going to be with the Major League club when Max Scherzer comes back. When Max Scherzer's back, and they'll send Easton Lucas down and to go to continue develop in AAA. That's what's going to happen. And I think John Schneider has sort of touched on that in some of his comments. I think it was after the last Easton Lucas start. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's to look at this like, oh, they're wasting an opportunity. I think that Easton Lucas gave you 2 wins. And for a guy that you're pulling up from your AAA squad, that's more than you can ask. You've gotten more than you've deserved out of this situation already. And if he can go up and get you 1 more, even better. But you're not going to replace Easton Lucas with Bowden Francis or with Max Scherzer or with Kevin Gausman. And you're not going to throw him in the bullpen because he's showing you that he has the ability to be a starter, but probably still needs developmental time. So, interesting question. But I think this is a very plain Jane answer from me that, yeah, he's going back to AAA. That's how the world works. And I don't think it's the worst thing for him as a player and as his development continues to move forward. And I think you got a good look at what he can be and that he's showing promise. But now it's building upon that.
Yeah, there is going to be a massive storyline surrounding Easton Lucas, I think, until we do see Max Scherzer come back. But when you look at it from the big picture, you're bringing up a guy from AAA. You won 2 out of the 3 games that you had this guy start in. I think that is a massive win for your team, for your organization. And I think with Easton Lucas right now is that why would you throw him in the bullpen? Kind of like you said, is that you want him for your starting rotation. You want to have that depth just in case Max Scherzer comes back and then, God forbid, the next start, maybe the thumb re-aggravates again, or maybe it's something else. Right. Maybe Kevin Gausman has an unfortunate injury. Things do happen, and you want Easton Lucas to be stretched out. If in the event of an injury, you see it with the New York Yankees right now, they've had to pull up like 3-4 guys from AAA. So you always want to have starting rotation depth. And I think that all that this has done with Easton Lucas is you're right, is that you said that you were kind of waiting for this to happen. I don't think you or me were waiting for like the 8 earned run performance, but maybe a little bit of a blow up. Like you didn't expect Easton Lucas to go out there 5 innings pitch, 5 1/3 innings pitch, 0 earned runs every single time. You kind of figure that, hey, it wasn't going to go well at some point. You don't want it to be 8 earned runs, not well. But there was kind of a start where he was going to have to go through some adversity in his career. Who would have thought an MLB baseball player, it's not going to be smooth sailing the entire time in your career, especially in your 3rd start in the major leagues. So I think the best thing for Easton Lucas, best thing for the Toronto Blue Jays is that you start him for the team. If there is an injury, you just keep him in this starting rotation role. You keep him stretched out. And when Max Scherzer does come back, I think you send him down to AAA again. He continues to develop and you keep him stretched out in the event that you do have an injury down the road. But I think the biggest thing with Easton Lucas is that some of these guys that you're pulling up, you can't get completely overexcited. You can't dive all the way in because after those 2 games, we did throw out the question, hey, at what point does Easton Lucas have to be in consideration to be in the starting rotation? And that was not after 2 games. That would have been after 4, 5, maybe 6 of those quality starts that we saw in a row. And maybe that would have brought up the question. But I think right now, I think the obvious answer is, and the one that makes the most sense for the Toronto Blue Jays and everyone involved, is that when Max Scherzer comes back, throw him in the starting rotation and you send Easton Lucas back down to AAA.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think there's any argument. Leave us a comment down below. What do you think should happen with Easton Lucas?
Just your
The
overall
return.
confidence in him as well. I want to see like if it's completely kind of gone down to the wayside, or you're kind of like us, just ride the middle. Don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows. So I've just continued to talk over Braden today, taking over the podcast. Of course, Braden's usually the one yapping, so I decided, hey, today Tuesday is going to be my day. But a bunch more we still do want to talk about. Want to go into the offense. Got some comments that we want to go into. Just some different stats. Bunch of things that we want to go over. So don't leave just yet. Still got a bunch to talk about. We'll get into all that coming up.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bet if your bet wins. And I always talk about FanDuel because that's where I place my bets. And I've been on a hot streak as of late. I've been killing it. And you know what? Go and place a bet you know is going to win, or you have very high faith in anyway. So you can get that $250 in bonus bets, and you could continue to build your account up that way. And then you don't got to put more and more money in until, you have to, or you can make a deposit. Utilize those bonus bets. So go and like we always say, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Again, your first bet has to win. Make sure you guys go and do that. If you like to bet on games, go do that. Don't get carried away. Have some fun. This weekend, we had the boys down. We all placed a bet together. We were riding it out. It was a blast. It was a ton of fun. The highs were high and the lows were low, but thank goodness we did win a couple. Again, head to FanDuel.com to get your $250 in bonus bets. So, Carter, a lot to get into. We want to get into that comment just because it brings up an interesting point. And I understand the comment, but I thought we covered it a little bit in yesterday's episode, but maybe not enough. So we'll go back and we'll dive into that right away. But we do have to talk about the rest of the game. I mean, the offense, we talked about the pitching staff and what happened there. But from an offensive perspective, it wasn't what you wanted to see, right? I mean, yes, 8-4 doesn't look that horrible in hindsight, if you're just looking at the stats and you're like, oh, well, this team did score 4 runs, but the game paints a little bit of a different picture.
Yeah, very misleading final score from the Toronto Blue Jays here. Just not a good game whatsoever. You see 8-4. If you're not watching that game, you're like, oh, they lost. Obviously, Easton Lucas probably didn't have a good day, but it must have been sort of competitive. No, not at all, actually. At-bats throughout the entire game, unless you're Myles and Tyler Heineman. I guess I'll throw Vladimir in there. He had some okay at-bats as well. Not a lot of production, but the at-bats in total just not good whatsoever. You don't have a base runner throughout the first 4 innings. This reminded me when we were in Toronto, and it was my first time at the Rogers Center, and we had to wait till inning number 7 until David Schneider hit a home run. It just brought me back to a place that I did not want to come back to. Obviously, they end that with an Andrus walk, and then Myles ends the no-hit bid with the home run. Now Myles, Tyler Heineman, George Springer, Alejandro, Kirk, all of these guys have more home runs than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Did not think I would be able to say that at this point. If you would have told me that Myles would have more home runs at any point in the season, whether that's, he could be playing in single A and Vladimir could be playing in MLB, I would tell you you're absolutely insane. But that is the world that we are living in right now. It's just, not a great showing. They do that little make-believe comeback at the end. I wasn't really bought into that at all. You kind of said, hey, Bichette, maybe it's a home run there. Maybe you jump in. But again, it's just not a good game whatsoever from your pitching. Other than, I guess, Jacob Bartz. I guess the bullpen was good. But your starting pitching and your offense, not a good showing.
Yeah, we don't get to say that the bullpen was the best part of this team very often. And here we
Unless
are.
Jeff Hoffman's going out and pitching.
That's right. Yeah. Other than that, it's sometimes a rough outing here. So, no, my overall thoughts is this was an absolute nothing burger game. I could not have, I felt like I was taken out of this so early on. And my brother called me middle of the game and he goes, "What are you doing right now?" I'm like, "Watching the Jays game." And he goes, "You didn't turn it off?" I'm like, "No, I didn't turn it off." He goes, "I did. I'm playing MLB The Show. I turned that right off. I'm like, all right. And then they gave me a little bit of hope, right? Tyler Heineman gets that hit, drives in the run. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, if Bichette can put a ball in play and keep the line moving here a little bit, maybe they have a chance, right? You get Bo up, you get Vlad, you get Santander. Something can happen, right? With those top three guys. That's the situation you want them in. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen, and it sucks. And that's it. Like I said, I think this is a table-setting game. And I guess I'll leave my final thoughts here on today's or on yesterday's game. Table-setting game. I need to see how this team responds. I want to see it because I think there are a lot of storylines now moving forward, especially with how this Braves lineup comes to hit in the next two games. So I'm interested. I think that, yeah, if you really watched the game, you realize that, okay, maybe this team isn't as good as the stats suggest for the Atlanta Braves. So again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to say that they're a bad team, and I don't want to say they're a great team either, because you're right. Jacob Barnes and Yariel Rodriguez did do a number on them. But is that also because they're up 8 runs and it's sort of whatever at that point? So again, I'm very interested to see how the next two games go for sure. And yeah, honestly, I know we said we talk offense. There's just not a lot to talk about, to be honest. Great for Myles Straw. That was awesome. But Tyler Heineman's a dog. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. It was.
Yeah, unfortunately, you might have been a little bit too greedy with that Bichette home run request because he doesn't even have one on the season.
Nothing.
But
No.
backtracking there, Bichette going into this game was leading the AL in hits. Again, who would have thought Bichette bounce back season? I'll say it every single time on this podcast. Every single time Bichette does literally anything on the baseball field, because one of the easiest bounce back predictions that I've honestly had just in the entire baseball scene, because it was right in front of our faces. But like you said, yeah, like you can't really get too excited about this offense. Don't really have a lot to say about the offense because there really wasn't too much done in this game. But the bounce back is going to be imminent because it does not get a whole lot easier from here. Spencer Schwellenbach in game number 2, Spencer Schneider making that start unless something goes horrifically wrong, obviously, before that Wednesday game. So you got 2 very good pitchers. You got an offense that been a little bit underwhelming in these last few games. You're looking for a bounce back performance from your pitcher. You got Kevin Gausman on the mound. So you're hoping that a lot of good things are going to come your way. But you're still in the hunt. The AL East is, doing a little bit of a weird thing right now where nobody really wants to separate from the pack. But when you're 17, 18 games into the season, can't really be standings watching too much here. But I did want to go into this comment that we did get. The only thing that sucks for me about our weekend episodes that we're doing it for the Monday is that it's almost like a sports cast where you can't really dive into everything because you're usually recovering 2-3 games, and then there's news coming out, Vladdy signing contracts, injuries, all this. We have our weekend. So we usually have to condense it a little bit. We can't really explain a lot of our points. So we talked about Bowden Francis, and we talked about some of the John Schneider decisions that we've seen throughout the weekend that just weren't very good decisions throughout. But I'm going to start this off by just kind of reading the comment and then going over my thoughts on this as well. So this is a little bit of a long one, so I'll try to kind of
is there any way you can cut her down a little bit?
I'll try to sum it up, but he says you guys need to stop being the hindsight 2020 guys. You can't complain about the Jays taking out Gausman too early and then complain about Bowden Francis being taken out too late. So pretty much he's saying you can't play both sides of the fence. It's either you got to ride with your starters, you got to keep those starters in, let them work out of their own jams, or you have that shorter leash. You take them out earlier in the game, you see them kind of getting into some trouble, and you take them out and you let your bullpen go, especially if you do have bullpen arms ready to go. I'll let you answer this one first because I said I wanted to talk about this, but didn't ask you on your opinion. Wanted to say it before the podcast, so I'll kind of give you the floor on this one.
Yeah. So first thing before I get in, love the comment. Anything that you guys comment usually is a little bit thought provoking for us, and at least instills. Maybe we didn't explain that enough, or maybe we didn't get our point across enough. So we always appreciate that. I know in the comment they said love the show, so I appreciate that. That's awesome. And the comment was great too, because it was thought out, and maybe you were right. We didn't go over our points well enough to explain that. So this is what I'll say. It isn't binary, right? Situations in baseball are never your ones and zeros. It's never black and white. It's never, oh, well, it's too late and it's too early, right? It's certain situations. And again, it's more just rolling with the feeling of the game, I guess, more than it is actually just being like, oh, well, it's not the 6th inning, so he's probably fine. Or it's the 5th inning, oh, he can go a little bit more. Or this. It's it's where the pitches have been. It's where what the outcome is. Has it deflated the team? Has it deflated the pitcher? You have to see it in the mannerisms, in all this. There are a lot that go into this, and that's why it is hard to give John Schneider a hard time. But and maybe it is a little bit of hindsight 2020, but Carter, I know during certain plays, even I'm like, you got to get him out. That he's done, right? Or I'm like, I'm the opposite, and I'm like, come on, he's looking good. That, it was a great pitch. The hitter just got a hold of it. He's fine. It's so situational when we talk about this stuff. So I don't want to say I don't think it's hindsight 2020, and maybe that's how you feel. That's how our reactions were like, and that's fair. But it's hard because we're going on a podcast afterwards and explaining our thoughts. But you're not sitting on the couch with us during the game, right? When I look over at Carter and I'm like, it's probably time. Or, you leave him in, please. He's pitching so well. It's a little bit harder to get across our feelings when it comes to post game, right? When we're doing this for the next day or the 2 days later when it comes to a weekend game. So, at the end of the day, I think just remember that it's not a binary situation of only so many innings or you got to look at how they've been pitching, how they've been locating. Did the hitter get on the ball and that's what changed it? Or was it a couple bad pitches in a row and the hitter's waiting, sitting middle because he knows a fastball's coming right over the heart of the plate? It's all situational. I guess, I don't know. That's my sort of tough way of explaining it. But I would just, at the end of the day, say it's not a binary situation.
Yeah, and that's my first point, so I'm not going to go over that too much. It's just not as black and white as just, oh, hey, you get to that sixth inning, you get to 100 pitches, or so all of a sudden there's a runner on base, you got to take him out. I just kind of want to go over a little bit of the backstory behind this Bowden Francis thing. So obviously the first 4 innings does the Bowden Francis thing that we're becoming way more accustomed to, just, going through bids with no hitters, taking them into later innings. But then we're also seeing this, has a Cedric Mullins walk, and then gives up the Keston Kjerstad home run, always giving up a home run after the no-hit bid. I'm okay with keeping him in after this. I don't think there's a problem here whatsoever. Agreed. It's where we get into the 6th inning, and we have that Adley Rutschman home run. Even he strikes out Gunnar Henderson the at-bat before. You can tell the command is starting to go a little bit awry here. The velo's dropping a little bit. Then has that pitch to Adley Rutschman. It's middle. It's an absolute meatball, and Adley Rutschman does not miss meatballs, especially against the Toronto Blue Jays. Hits a home run to right field. Then after that, Ryan O'Hearn walks. That's like, after that Adley Rutschman home run, I'm like, maybe give him one more here, but this is where, for me, the red flags start to pop up, especially after giving up that Keston Kjerstad home run the inning before, which was, again, more of a middle pitch. Walks Ryan O'Hearn. That's when I'm taking him out, but I was still a little bit 50-50 there. Jordan Westbrook has a single up the middle. Now you have 2 runners on, you have 2 outs, and you just had an off day on the Friday as well. So you have every single pitcher at your disposal. Bowden Francis, this isn't just his first hit. This is his second hit. He's starting to go into a little bit of trouble here. He was in trouble in the 5th inning a little bit, had some trouble again in the 6th inning. You needed 1 out in that situation. You had your whole bullpen at your disposal. I think that is where you have to go to your bullpen. And you made a comment and you compared him to Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman's in that situation. Maybe you let Kevin Gausman ride that out. And this was my second point in this. Bowden Francis over his career has 157.2 innings pitched. Kevin Gausman had more innings pitched last year than Bowden Francis did in his entire career. For Kevin Gausman, for Bowden Francis, for Kevin Gausman, for Chris Bassitt, for Jose Berrios, the veterans pitchers on this team, I'm going to be more likely to let them kind of battle it out in these situations and let these vets battle themselves out of the situation they put themselves in. But in the same notion, if you can see one of those vets struggling, I think that's the main point you got to focus on, is you got to read the game for each situation. Like you said, not every situation is binary. It's not the exact same thing. So you have to really pick and choose between situations. But I'm going to be a lot more likely to trust one of those veteran pitchers, a guy that has done it time and time and time again, than a guy like Bowden Francis. As much as I love Bowden Francis, I'm one of the biggest advocators, honestly, with Blue Jays fans for Bowden Francis, one of my go-to guys. But in that situation, just because of the lack of experience with Bowden Francis and just the lack of consistency, has been good this year and was good at the end of the season last year. But if you remember, Bowden Francis at the start of 2024 got sent back down to AAA. So again, I think you have to trust Kevin Gausman, Jose Berrios, Chris Bassitt a lot more still right now than Bowden Francis. Not saying Bowden Francis is a bad pitcher, but just giving those veterans that kind of, hey, like, you've been around the league, you got to give them that more respect than you do for the guy like Bowden Francis. Hopefully I explained that thoroughly and properly. Braden, I'll let you kind of give your last thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. And that's what I mean, right? It's so situational that at the end of the day, it's not just even, you're right, it's not even just about how the pitcher's doing on that day. It's who the pitcher is. What's the experience level? Are they a veteran? Have they been in situations like this before? So again, and we're not hating on this comment whatsoever. It was a great comment, thought-provoking for us. I know we went back and forth about it a little bit, like, hey, I think we should talk about this. It's pretty interesting. So I really appreciate the comment. Really appreciate that you love the show. And you guys, the comments lately have been so good. So we appreciate it a ton. And you know what? We love, doing these like little thought exercises on little things that we said, because again, we do a show every single day, 5 days a week. For here, sometimes we say things that, we might be contradicting ourselves because we've been talking for 30 minutes about, 30 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day on the team, right? So that's going to happen. And if you guys want to call us out and stuff like that, that's totally fine. If you want us to explain our thought, because maybe we didn't, love that too. Great comment. Thanks. Appreciate it, Tom. We got more to get into, Carter. I got a couple tweets I want to run by you, because I found one thing pretty funny. So, and I know you have one for me as well. So I think let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Comment what you guys think as well. Yeah, how do you feel about John Schneider too? So we'll throw that one at you as well. I know we've been throwing a lot at you guys about, commenting and stuff like that. But again, this is why, because we love your guys' opinions and we want to, we want to use them to help the show, build the show out. Find talking points. So this is perfect. We'll be right back with more.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you can simply pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports. You can go basketball and hockey, baseball and hockey, football, basketball, and much more, and you can have a chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So obviously, you guys know I am a massive fantasy guy. I love to dive into fantasy baseball, fantasy hockey, fantasy football. I'm pretty much in every single fantasy league. And what I like to do with this stuff is I like to base my fantasy picks and all of my sports picks off my fantasy teams, obviously, because I want them to transpire and I want to win my fantasy league so I can have those bragging rights and then also win some money on Prize Picks. So I decided to go more than total bases with O'Neill Cruz at 1.5. I did have Tyler Alexander on my fantasy team, but I went less than strikeouts. I was just hoping to get innings from him. Hit that one as well. So I did hit on my pick today. You guys can hopefully join with my picks and hit on these picks as well. You can download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game.
All right, dude, I'm going to start you off with a little non-serious one here. Not the biggest Toronto Blue Jays thing of all time, but I thought it was unbelievably hilarious. This is from the Atlanta Braves broadcast. I'm not sure if you saw the video. So Braves sportscaster Willie Baylord gets a fan's phone number in the middle of a game, and the tweet says, "Legendary Riz." I absolutely thought it was hilarious. So he goes up talking to fans, and he's talking to these 2 girls, and the play-by-play and color analyst for the Braves go, "Are you going to try to get their number?" And jokingly or whatever. And the guy pulls out his phone and gets the girl's number. That might be a first in MLB history that a sportscaster gets a number on live television. I thought it was unbelievably hilarious. And, that's just stuff that happens. I know, Carter, I've sent you many times to, try to get girls' numbers, but it hasn't come out with the success like this guy. So good on him.
Well, I think the difference is that like I know he's sportscasting, but I have an example about that after. But this would fit more the Tyler Glasnow example is that you're playing and you're trying to get people's numbers at beer league games, and that they're not really going there to see like the top performing people there. They're not really too worried about what Braden's stat line was on a Thursday night on the slow pitch field. But that actually reminds me of Tyler Glasnow and how he met his girlfriend. I'm pretty sure they are married now. He was pitching in the game. He was pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays, saw a girl in the crowd, got her number after the game, and happily ever after they lived. So, I mean, maybe that's the play. You don't need dating apps. You don't need to go out to the bars. You don't need to go to the clubs. Go to the baseball field. Maybe you'll find love there at the Rogers Center. You'll find love at the Corona Rooftop Lounge.
Yeah, they say the Moneyball quote that I can never remember. It's hard to not be romantic about baseball, right? Man, there's a love in the air today, I guess.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, at least someone had a good time at the Toronto Blue Jays baseball game. Because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. didn't, Toronto Blue Jays fans didn't. I'm pretty sure anyone that has anything to do with the Toronto Blue Jays did not have that great of a time today. I do have some things I wanted to go into, but As always, we always go a little bit longer than we anticipate. So there's a Nathan Lucas situation that I want to talk about. We're going to save that for the Wednesday episode because not necessarily as much of like the baseball stuff, but just a little bit more on the Wilder side as well. It's something I definitely want to discuss and get your opinions on. But thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, everything recently has been much appreciated. We have noticed that about 77% of you guys are not subscribed. You guys are tuning into the shorts, the podcast, live streams, everything, all the content that we are posting. It is much appreciated that you guys do subscribe, and also it keeps our content at the top of your page. But Braden, anything else to add before we do take off for the Tuesday episode?
No, I just got to throw again. We appreciate everybody's comments. They have been fantastic lately. So keep dropping those and have discussions with each other. If you see a comment that you agree with or disagree with, let them know too, because we're this is sort of a community, right? We're all Blue Jays fans here. We're all having these discussions on the couch, and so everybody that's listening to the podcast get together and have discussions down there too. So make sure you guys do that. Throw likes to each other, stuff like that. Hey, and if you disagree, just disagree nicely. So, there's no in-house fighting here in our comment section. But, there hasn't been because you guys are the best. Always appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.